A single rose, its petals blood-red, lay on a velvet cushion in a locked room. Beside it, a dagger gleamed under candlelight, its blade etched with a forbidden symbol. How did they get there? And why was Hercule Poirot, the world's greatest detective, staring at them with a chill down his spine? Welcome to a mystery where every clue hides a secret, and every secret could kill. The fog clung to the cobblestones of London, like a jealous lover, as Hercule Poirot adjusted his impeccable moustache in the dim glow of a street lamp. It was a chilly autumn evening in 1932, and Poirot had just received a peculiar letter. The envelope, sealed with crimson wax, bore no return address, only the initials EV, pressed into the seal. Inside, a single sheet of paper invited him to Blackthorn Manor, a secluded estate in the English countryside, for a weekend gathering. The sender, one Lady Eleanor Vale, promised a matter of utmost urgency that required Poirot's singular genius. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would the great Poirot, a man who solves crimes with the precision of a Swiss watch, accept a cryptic invitation? Well, my friends, curiosity is a powerful thing, and Poirot's was piqued. Let's dive into this tale of mystery and see what secrets await at Blackthorn Manor. Poirot arrived at the manor by a horse-drawn carriage, the wheels crunching against the gravel drive. The estate loomed ahead, a Gothic sprawl of ivy, stone and towering chimneys. The air felt heavy, as if the house itself were holding its breath. Lady Eleanor greeted him at the door, a woman in her late 40s with sharp green eyes and a smile that didn't quite reach them. She wore a velvet gown, a single rose pinned to her chest, its petals so red they seemed to drink the light. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, her voice smooth as silk, "your presence honors us. We have a situation that requires your discretion." She led him into a grand foyer, where a chandelier flickered above a marble floor. The other guests were already there, a curious mix. Sir Reginald Holt, a retired colonel with a temper as fiery as his moustache. Miss Clara Wren, a young novelist with a penchant for asking too many questions. Dr. Julian Marsh, a quiet physician with a nervous tic. And Victor Grange, a charming businessman whose easy grin hid something Poirot couldn't yet place. The evening began with dinner, served in a dining hall lined with portraits of stern-faced ancestors. The conversation was polite but strained, like a violin string stretched too tight. Poirot observed the guests, his little grey cells humming. Sir Reginald complained loudly about the state of the Empire. Clara scribbled notes in a leather-bound journal. Dr. Marsh fidgeted with his fork, and Victor kept glancing at Lady Eleanor. She, in turn, seemed to watch them all, her gaze lingering on a locked door at the far end of the hall. "What lies behind that door, madame?" Poirot asked, his tone light but probing. Lady Eleanor's smile faltered. "A private study," she said. Quickly, nothing of interest. But Poirot's instincts told him otherwise. A locked door in a house full of secrets. That Mies Amos is a clue. As the night wore on, the guests retired to the drawing-room for brandy and cigars. Poirot declined both, preferring a tisane to soothe his nerves. It was then that Clara, ever the storyteller, shared a local legend about Blackthorn Manor. "They say," she whispered, her eyes gleaming, "that a forbidden secret is buried here, guarded by a rose and a dagger. Anyone who uncovers it meets a terrible fate." The room fell silent, the crackle of the fireplace the only sound. Sir Reginald scoffed, calling it nonsense, but Dr. Marsh's hands trembled and Victor's grin vanished. Lady Eleanor stood abruptly, excusing herself to check on the staff. Poirot's mind raced. A rose, a dagger, a forbidden secret. Were these mere superstition or something far more sinister? Before the night ended, a scream shattered the quiet. It came from the locked study. The guests rushed to the door, but it was bolted shut. Lady Eleanor appeared, her face pale, a key clutched in her hand. She unlocked the door, revealing a small room lit by a single candle. On a table lay a velvet cushion, and on it a blood-red rose beside a dagger with an intricately carved handle. The blade bore a singular crescent moon pierced by a thorn. Poirot's heart quickened. There was no body, no blood, yet the air felt thick with dread. "Who has access to this room?" he demanded. Lady Eleanor hesitated. "Only I," she said, but her eyes darted to the guests. Someone was lying, and Poirot knew it. "Let's pause here, my friends. What is the meaning of this rose and dagger? Why was the study locked, and who screamed? The answers are coming, but we're just getting started. Blackthorn Manor is a puzzle, and Poirot is about to turn over every piece. Stick with me as we unravel this mystery in the next chapter. Don't forget to like and subscribe to join Poirot on this thrilling case. The scream still echoed in Hercule Poirot's ears as he stood in the dimly lit study of Blackthorn Manor, his sharp eyes scanning the scene before him. The rose and the dagger, placed so deliberately on the velvet cushion, seemed to mock him with their silent mystery. The air was thick with the scent of wax and something else fierce, perhaps. Welcome back, my friends, to our tale of secrets and suspense. In this chapter, we'll follow Poirot as he begins to unravel the enigma of that locked room and the strange behavior of the guests who screamed and why. Let's step into the shadows of Blackthorn Manor and find out. If you're enjoying this mystery, hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with Poirot's investigation. The study was small but richly appointed, with oak-panelled walls and a single window shuttered against the night. A mahogany desk stood in one corner, its surface bare except for a few scattered papers. Shelves, lined with leather-bound books, stretched to the ceiling, their titles too faded to read in the flickering candlelight. Poirot's attention, however, was fixed on the table at the room's centre, where the rose and dagger lay like pieces of a puzzle. The rose was fresh, its petals vibrant, as if plucked just hours ago. The dagger's handle was carved with intricate patterns, and that singular crescent moon, pierced by a thorn, felt like a whisper of something ancient, forbidden. Poirot knelt to examine the items closely, careful not to touch them. "This is no ordinary display," he murmured to himself. "This is a message." Lady Eleanor Vale stood by the door, her hands clasped tightly, her composure fraying like an old tapestry. The other guests crowded behind her, their faces a mix of curiosity and unease. Sir Reginald Holt, the retired colonel, puffed out his chest and demanded, "Well, Poirot, what's the meaning of this nonsense?" His bluster did little to hide, the sweat beading on his brow. Miss Clara Wren, the novelist, was scribbling furiously in her journal, her eyes darting between the rows and the guests. Dr. Julian Marsh hovered at the edge of the group, his fingers twitching as if he wanted to flee. Victor Grange, the businessman, leaned casually against the doorframe, but his knuckles were white where he gripped his cigarette case. Poirot noted every detail, their postures, their glances, their silences. "Someone here knows more than they say," he thought. Poirot turned to Lady Eleanor. "Madame, you say only you have access to this room. Yet a scream brought us here. Who was inside?" Her green eyes flickered, but she answered smoothly, "No one, Monsieur Poirot. The room was locked, as you saw. Poirot raised an eyebrow. Then how do you explain the scream? Before she could respond, Clara interjected, her voice trembling with excitement. It's like my novel, The Crimson Veil. A locked room. A hidden truth, perhaps a ghost. Sir Reginald snorted. Ghosts. Poppycock. Someone's playing a prank. Dr. Marsh said nothing, but his gaze lingered on the dagger. Victor laughed, a little too loudly. A prank. In a place like this, you'd need nerves of steel. Poirot ignored their chatter and began to inspect the room. He tapped the walls, listening for hollow spots, and checked the window shutters, which were bolted from the inside. No sign of forced entry. The papers on the desk caught his eye letters, mostly written in a hurried hand. One, half hidden beneath a blotter, bore the same crescent and thorn symbol as the dagger. Poirot slipped it into his pocket discreetly, his mind racing. A clue, he thought, but to what? He turned to the group. Mies Amos, I must ask, where were each of you when the scream was heard? The question hung in the air like smoke. Lady Eleanor claimed she was in the kitchen, instructing the staff. Sir Reginald said he was in the drawing room, refilling his brandy. Clara had been in her room, writing. Dr. Marsh mumbled something about the library, and Victor said he'd stepped outside for a cigarette. Poirot's little grey cells buzzed. Their alibis were vague, their stories too neat. He decided to press further. Madame, he said to Lady Eleanor, this rose and dagger are they part of the legend Miss Wren mentioned? Her lips tightened. An old tale, she said dismissively. A family superstition about a secret that must never be revealed. It's nothing. But Poirot saw the fear in her eyes, and he knew it was far from nothing. As the group returned to the drawing room, Poirot lingered in the study, his mind piecing together the fragments. The scream, the locked room, the symbol, the guests uneased, all pointed to a deeper truth. He recalled Clara's story about the rose and dagger guarding a forbidden secret. Was it a treasure, a scandal, or something darker? He stepped to the window, noticing a faint scratch on the sill, barely visible. It was fresh, as if something had been dragged across it. A tool, a weapon. He filed the observation away, knowing every detail mattered in a house where trust was as scarce as sunlight. Back in the drawing room, the tension was palpable. Sir Reginald paced, muttering about damned theatrics. Clara whispered to Victor, who nodded curtly. Dr. Marsh sat alone, staring into the fire. Lady Eleanor poured tea, her hands steady now, but Poirot noticed a faint tremor when she glanced at the study door. He decided to test the waters. Mies Amos, he said, his voice calm but commanding. Someone in this house knows why that rose and dagger were placed in the study. I suggest you speak now, before the truth finds you. The room went still. No one spoke, but their eyes betrayed them guilt, fear, or perhaps defiance. And there we leave our tale for now, my friends. Poirot has only begun to peel back the layers of this mystery. What does the crescent and thorn symbol mean? Who screamed in the locked study, and how did they vanish? The answers are closer than you think, but Blackthorn Manor holds its secrets tight. Join me in the next chapter as Poirot digs deeper into the guests' pasts and uncovers a clue that changes everything. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below with your theories. Who do you think is hiding the truth? See you in Chapter 3. The fire in Blackthorn Manor's drawing room crackled, casting long shadows that danced across the faces of the guests. Hercule Poirot stood near the hearth, his small frame commanding the room as he studied each person with the precision of a watchmaker. The scream from the locked study lingered in everyone's minds, and the rose and dagger on that velvet cushion seemed to pulse with unspoken secrets. Welcome back, my friends, to our twisting tale of mystery at Blackthorn Manor. In this chapter, Poirot begins to probe the guests' pasts, searching for connections to the cryptic symbol and the forbidden secret. What ties these people to this house? Let's follow the great detective as he uncovers threads that lead deeper into the darkness. If you're hooked on this suspense, smash that like button and subscribe to stay with Poirot's investigation. Poirot sipped his tisane, the herbal warmth calming his nerves as his little grey cells worked overtime. The letter he'd slipped from the study desk was tucked safely in his pocket, its crescent and thorn symbol burning in his memory. He knew the key to the mystery lay not just in the study, but in the lives of those gathered here. Mies, Amos. He began, his voice soft yet piercing. A crime more the promise of one has brought us together. To solve it, I must know who you are, truly. The guests shifted uncomfortably, their eyes avoiding his. Lady Eleanor Vale, the hostess, stood by the window, her silhouette framed against the foggy night. Sir Reginald Holt gripped his brandy glass, his knuckles white. Clara Wren paused her scribbling, her pen hovering. Dr. Julian Marsh stared at his shoes, and Victor Grange lit another cigarette, the smoke curling like a question mark. Poirot decided to start with Lady Eleanor. Madame, you invited me here for a matter of utmost urgency, yet you claim ignorance about the scream and the objects in the study. Tell me, what is your connection to this manor and its legend? Her lips parted, then closed, as if weighing her words. Blackthorn has been in my family for generations, she said finally. The legend of the Rose and Dagger is an old story, nothing more. A tale of a secret my ancestors swore to protect. I invited you because I feared someone might exploit it. Her voice was steady, but Poirot caught the flicker of hesitation. Exploit it, how? He pressed. She glanced at the guests, then back at him. I cannot say. Not yet. Poirot nodded, filing away her evasion for later. Next, he turned to Sir Reginald, whose red face suggested a temper barely contained. Monsieur, you are a man of military precision, yet you seem unsettled by a mere superstition. Have you encountered this rose and dagger before? The colonel bristled. Nonsense. I've no patience for ghost stories. I came here at Eleanor's request, nothing more. Old friend of the family, you know. But his eyes darted to the study door, and Poirot noted it. An old friend with secrets, perhaps. Clara Wren was next, her youthful energy a contrast to the room's gloom. Mademoiselle, you write of mysteries, yet you seem eager to find one here. Why? Clara smiled, a mix of nerves and excitement. I'm researching my next novel. Lady Eleanor invited me, said this place would inspire me, and that legend, it's perfect. But I swear, I know nothing about that scream. Her enthusiasm felt genuine, but Poirot wondered if her curiosity hid a deeper motive. Dr. Marsh was harder to read. The physician's hands trembled as he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm here too. Advise Lady Eleanor on a medical matter. I was in the library when I heard the scream. That's all. Poirot's eyes narrowed. A medical matter. In a house with no apparent illness. Marsh flinched, saying nothing more. Victor Grange, ever the charmer, was last. Monsieur Grange, you are a businessman, yet you seem at ease in this house of secrets. What brings you here? Victor exhaled a plume of smoke, his grin returning. "Eleanor's an old acquaintance. Said she needed my ... expertise, investments. You know, I was outside when the scream happened. Didn't see a thing." His casual tone felt rehearsed, and Poirot's instincts prickled, with their stories collected. Poirot excused himself to examine the letter from the study. In the quiet of the Manor's library, he unfolded it carefully. The paper was old, its edges yellowed, but the ink was fresh. It read, "The rose blooms, the dagger strikes. The secret must not see the light, Evie." The initials matched Lady Eleanor's, but the handwriting was different, sharper, more angular. A forgery, a warning. The crescent and thorn symbol was scrawled at the bottom, linking it to the dagger. Poirot's mind raced. The legend spoke of a secret guarded by the rose and dagger, but what was it? A treasure, a scandal, or something that could ruin someone in this house? He returned to the drawing room, where the guests were whispering among themselves. Clara was quizzing Victor about his business dealings, while Sir Reginald muttered to Lady Eleanor about keeping things under control. Dr. Marsh sat apart, his face pale. Poirot decided to stir the pot. "Mies Amos," he announced. "I have found a letter bearing the same symbol as the dagger. It speaks of a secret that must not be revealed. I wonder, which of you knows what? It hides." The room froze. Lady Eleanor's cup clattered against its saucer. Sir Reginald's face reddened further. Clara's eyes widened, her pen scratching faster. Marsh's tic worsened, and Victor's cigarette paused mid-air. Someone, Poirot knew, was hiding the truth. As the clock struck midnight, a gust of wind rattled the windows, and the lights flickered. Clara gasped, pointing to the floor. There, near the study door, was a single rose petal, its red stalk against the marble. It hadn't been there before. "Someone's been back to the study," Poirot said softly, his eyes sweeping the group. "And they left this behind." Lady Eleanor clutched her brooch, where her own rose was pinned. "Impossible," she whispered. But Poirot knew better. Someone had moved in the shadows, and the game was growing dangerous. That's where we... Pause, my friends. Poirot's uncovered a letter, a petal, and a web of half-truths, but the heart of the mystery remains locked away. What does the letter mean, and who left that petal? The answers are closer, but Blackthorn Manor's secrets are stubborn. Join me in the next chapter as Poirot follows the trail of the rose and uncovers a shocking revelation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment with your guesses who's hiding the forbidden secret. See you in Chapter 4. The single rose petal on the marble floor of Blackthorn Manor seemed to glow under the flickering chandelier, a crimson clue in a house brimming with secrets. Hercule Poirot's keen eyes locked onto it, his mind racing as the guests stood frozen, their faces a gallery of guilt and suspicion. The air was thick with tension, the kind that makes your skin prickle, as if the manor itself were watching, waiting. Welcome back, my friends, to our suspenseful journey with the world's greatest detective. In this chapter, Poirot follows the trail of that mysterious petal, digging deeper into the manor's shadows and the guests' hidden truths. What does this clue reveal about the rose, the dagger, and the forbidden secret? Let's step into the mystery and find out. If you're gripped by this tale, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's unravel this puzzle together. Poirot knelt beside the petal, his gloved fingers hovering just above it. It was fresh, its edges uncurled, as if it had fallen moments ago. He glanced at Lady Eleanor Vale, whose brooch still held a perfect red rose, identical to the one in the study. "Madame," he said, his voice calm but cutting, Your rose remains intact. Yet this petal lies here, outside the locked study. Can you explain?" Lady Eleanor's green eyes widened, her hand instinctively touching her brooch. I don't know," she stammered. "I haven't been near the study since we left it." Her words were firm, but her trembling fingers betrayed her. Poirot's little grey cells hummed. Someone had been in that room again, and the petal was no accident. The other guests were no less rattled. Sir Reginald Holt, the retired colonel, cleared his throat loudly, his moustache twitching. "This is absurd, Poirot. A petal means nothing. Some servant probably dropped it." But his bluster couldn't hide the sweat on his brow. Miss Clara Wren, the novelist, clutched her journal, her eyes darting between the petal and the study door. "It's like a clue from one of my stories," she whispered, almost to herself. "A breadcrumb leading to the truth." Dr. Julian Marsh, the quiet physician, stood rigid, his nervous tic more pronounced, his gaze fixed on the floor. Victor Grange, the charming businessman, flicked ash from his cigarette, his grin strained. "A petal. Hardly evidence of a crime," he said lightly, but his eyes lingered on Lady Eleanor. Poirot stood, brushing imaginary dust from his impeccable suit. "Mes amis, this petal is no mere decoration. It is a sign someone has moved in this house, unseen, and they wish us to know it." He turned to the study door, still locked, and gestured for Lady Eleanor to open it. She hesitated, her key trembling in her hand, but complied. The door creaked open, revealing the same candlelit room, the rose and dagger still on their velvet cushion. But something was different. Poirot's sharp eyes caught it immediately. A second petal, identical to the first, now lay on the table, inches from the rose. The guests gasped. "Impossible," Sir Reginald barked. "We were all in the drawing-room." Poirot's smile was thin. "Not all, it seems." He examined the study again, his movements precise. The window's shutters remained bolted, the walls solid, no hidden panels, but the scratch on the windowsill, noted earlier, now seemed more significant. He ran a finger along it, feeling its depth. A tool, perhaps, he mused, or something dragged through the window before it was sealed. He turned to the desk, where the letter with the crescent thorn symbol still lay in his pocket. He hadn't revealed its full contents yet, but the initials EE, V, and the warning the secret must not see the light, gnawed at him. Was Lady Eleanor the author, or was someone using her initials to mislead? Poirot decided to confront the group. "Mes amis, let us be frank. This petal, this second intrusion into a locked room, it suggests one of you has access to secrets you do not share. I ask again, what do you know of the rose and dagger?" Silence fell, heavy as the fog outside. Clara spoke first, her voice eager. "The legend says the rose and dagger guard a secret buried in this house. A treasure, maybe, or a truth someone died for. I thought it was just a story, but—" She trailed off, glancing at Lady Eleanor. Sir Reginald scoffed. "Fairy tales. I've known the Vale family for years. There's no treasure here, just old debts and older grudges." His words were sharp, but Poirot caught a hint of fear beneath them. Dr. Marsh finally spoke, his voice barely audible. I've seen that symbol before, the crescent and thorn, in a book, years ago, about secret societies. It's dangerous." He stopped, as if regretting his words. Poirot pounced. "A secret society, monsieur? And what would a physician know of such things?" Marsh shrank back, mumbling, "It was just a book." Victor laughed, breaking the tension. "Secret societies. "Come now, Doctor. You sound like Clara's novels." But his eyes were cold, calculating. Lady Eleanor stepped forward, her voice firm. "Enough. This is my home, and I won't have it turned into a circus. Monsieur Poirot, I hired you to solve a problem, not to stir up rumors." Poirot bowed slightly. "Madame, the truth is my only goal, and the truth lies in your pasts." To test his theory, Poirot proposed a walk through the manor's grounds, hoping the change of scene would loosen tongues. The group bundled into coats and stepped into the misty night, the manor's silhouette looming behind them. The gardens were overgrown, roses climbing wild over stone walls. Poirot noticed a small gate, half hidden by vines, leading to a walled-off section. "What lies there, madame?" he asked Lady Eleanor. Her face tightened. "An old family crypt. It's locked, and no one goes there." Poirot's eyes gleamed. A crypt. Another locked space in a house of mysteries. He made a mental note to investigate later. As they walked, Clara lagged behind, whispering to Poirot, "I found something in the library earlier journal, hidden in a book. It mentioned the rose and dagger, and a betrayal from 20 years ago. It's not just a legend, Monsieur Poirot. It's real." Before he could press her, a twig snapped nearby, and Victor appeared, his smile too quick. "Getting cozy, are we?" he teased, but his eyes were sharp. Poirot sensed danger in the air, like a storm about to break. Back inside, Poirot gathered the guests in the drawing room. "Mies, Amos, the petal, and the legend point to a truth someone wishes to hide. I will find it, but I warn Ursulines will not protect you." As he spoke, the lights flickered again, and a faint thud echoed from upstairs. The group froze. "What now?" Sir Reginald growled. Poirot's heart quickened. "We shall see," he said, leading the way to the staircase. "And there we pause, my friends." The Petals trail has led Poirot to new questions. Second intrusion, a secret society, a hidden crypt. What was that thud, and what does Clara's journal reveal? Blackthorn Manor's secrets are unraveling, but danger is closing in. Join me in the next chapter as Poirot follows the sound upstairs and uncovers a clue that shakes the house to its core. Like, subscribe, and comment below with your theories who's behind the petal and what's in that crypt. See you in Chapter 5. The thud from upstairs sent a shiver through Blackthorn Manor, as if the house itself were stirring from a long, uneasy sleep. Hercule Poirot stood at the foot of the grand staircase, his eyes narrowing as he listened to the silence that followed, heavy and expectant. The guests behind him were a tableau of nerves. Lady Eleanor Vale clutched her shawl. Sir Reginald Holt's hand hovered near his pocket. Clara Wren's pen trembled in her grip. Dr. Julian Marsh's tick twitched violently, and Victor Grange's cigarette glowed like a tiny beacon in the dim light. Welcome back, my friends, to our gripping mystery at Blackthorn Manor. In this chapter, Poirot follows the mysterious sound upstairs, chasing clues that tie the rose, the dagger, and the forbidden secret to a past that refuses to stay buried. What lies in the shadows above? Let's climb the stairs with Poirot and find out. If you're loving the suspense, smash that like button, subscribe, and let's dive deeper into the enigma. Poirot led the way, his polished shoes clicking on the oak steps, each sound echoing in the cavernous hall. The air grew colder as they ascended, the manor's walls seeming to close in, their shadows twisting under the flickering sconces. "Stay. Close, Mies. Amos," Poirot said, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "Whatever made that sound may still be near." Lady Eleanor protested, her voice sharp. "This is unnecessary. Monsieur Poirot. It was likely just a servant or the wind, but her eyes betrayed her, darting to the dark corridor above. Poirot's little grey cells buzzed. The thud was no accident, and he sensed the guests knew more than they let on. At the top of the stairs, a long hallway stretched into darkness, lined with heavy wooden doors. Portraits of stern-faced Vale ancestors glared down, their eyes seeming to follow the group. Poirot paused, listening. A faint creak came from the far end of the corridor, near a door slightly ajar. He motioned for silence and approached, the guests trailing reluctantly. The door led to a guest room, sparsely furnished with a four-poster bed, a wardrobe, and a small writing desk. On the floor, a silver candlestick lay overturned, its candle snuffed out, wax pooling on the rug. "Voila," Poirot murmured, "the source of our thud." But how had it fallen, and who had been here? He examined the room closely. The bed was undisturbed, the wardrobe empty save for a musty coat. But the desk drawer was slightly open, revealing a small leather pouch. Inside, Poirot found a single item, a brass key etched with the now familiar crescent and thorn symbol. His heart quickened. "This key," he said, holding it up, "does it belong to the crypt Madame Vale mentioned?" Lady Eleanor's face paled. I don't know," she said, but her voice wavered. Sir Reginald snorted. "Crypts and keys. This is turning into a penny dreadful." Clara, however, leaned closer, her eyes wide. "That's no ordinary key, Monsieur Poirot. In my research, I read about a locked vault in the Vale crypt, tied to the Rose and Dagger legend." Poirot nodded, tucking the key into his pocket beside the letter. Another piece of the puzzle. He turned to the group. "Who was in this room before we arrived? Speak now, or the truth will find you." The guests exchanged glances, their silence deafening. Dr. Marsh finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. I came upstairs earlier to fetch my medical bag. I didn't touch anything." His tic worsened, and Poirot noted the lie in his eyes. Victor raised an eyebrow. "Your bag's in the library, doctor. Try again." Marsh flushed, stammering, but said no more. Clara chimed in, her voice eager. "I was in my room, writing, but I heard footsteps in the hall. I thought it was the staff." Sir Reginald growled, "Enough of this. I was downstairs, as you know, Poirot." Victor shrugged. "I was with the group. Maybe it was a ghost, eh?" His grin was forced, and Poirot sensed he was deflecting. Poirot's gaze returned to the candlestick. The wax was still soft, meaning it had fallen recently. He knelt, noticing a faint smudge on the rug, a partial footprint, too small for a man's shoe, a woman's perhaps. He glanced at Lady Eleanor and Clara, but their expressions gave nothing away. "Someone was here," he said softly, "and they left in a hurry." He stood, addressing Lady Eleanor. "Madame, you mentioned a crypt, locked and forbidden." "I must see it." Her lips tightened. "It's dangerous, Monsieur Poirot. The crypt is old, unstable. No one has entered in years." But Poirot was undeterred. "The truth is never safe." Madame led the way. Reluctantly, Lady Eleanor guided them back to the gardens, where the hidden gate stood, shrouded in vines. The night was thick with fog, the air damp and heavy. She produced a keyknot, the one Poirot had found, and unlocked the gate, revealing a stone path leading to a low, moss-covered structure. The crypt's iron door was rusted but sturdy, its lock engraved with the crescent and thorn symbol. Poirot tried the brass key from the pouch. It didn't fit. curio," he murmured. "A key with the same symbol, yet it opens another lock. Where, I wonder?" Lady Eleanor's face was unreadable, but her hands trembled. Inside, the crypt was a maze of stone sarcophagi, their lids carved with roses and thorns. Dust coated everything, and the air smelled of earth and decay. Poirot's flashlight swept the shadows, landing on a small alcove. There, on a stone shelf, was a faded painting of a woman holding a rose, a dagger at her side. The crescent thorn symbol was etched into the frame. Clara gasped. "That's Lady Margaret Vale, from the legend. She's said to have hidden the secret centuries ago." Poirot nodded, his mind racing. The letter, the key, the painting all pointed to a truth buried in the Vale family's past. But what and who was desperate to keep it hidden? As they left the crypt, a faint rustle came from the bushes nearby. Poirot spun, his flashlight catching a glimpse of movement of figure, cloaked in black, vanishing into the fog. "Stop," he called, but the figure was gone. The guests froze, their faces pale. "Who was that?" Clara whispered. Victor lit another cigarette, his hands unsteady. "Probably just a gardener," he said, but no one believed him. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Someone was watching, listening, and they were one step ahead, back in the manor. Poirot gathered the group in the drawing room. Mies Amos, the key, the crypt, the figure in the fogle are connected to the rose and dagger. Someone here knows the truth, and I will find it. The lights flickered again, and a distant door slammed, making everyone jump. Poirot's smile was grim. "The manor speaks, and we must listen. Here we pause, my friends. The key doesn't fit the crypt. A shadowy figure stalks the grounds, and the past is closing in. What lock does the key open, and who was watching?" From the shadows. "Poirot's getting closer, but danger is nearer still." Join me in the next chapter as he uncovers a secret that threatens to tear Blackthorn Manor apart. Like, subscribe, and comment below with your guesses who's the figure in the fog. See you in Chapter 6. The slamming door echoed through Blackthorn Manor like a warning shot, its sound lingering in the tense silence of the drawing room. Hercule Poirot stood motionless, his sharp eyes scanning the guests, each one a puzzle piece in a mystery growing darker by the hour. The brass key with the crescent thorn symbol weighed heavily in his pocket, its purpose still a riddle, and the fleeting glimpse of the cloaked figure in the fog outside gnawed at his mind. Welcome back, my friends, to our thrilling tale of secrets and suspense. In this chapter, Poirot hunts for the lock that matches the mysterious key, chasing clues that lead him closer to the heart of the forbidden secret. Who was the figure in the fog, and what lies behind that slammed door? Let's follow the great detective as he peels back another layer of Blackthorn's mysteries. If you're hooked, smash that like button, subscribe, and let's dive in. Gaze swept the drawing room, noting the guests' reactions to the distant slam. Lady Eleanor Vale stood rigid, her fingers twisting the edge of her shawl. Sir Reginald Holt's hand was still in his pocket, as if gripping something for reassurance. Clara Wren clutched her journal, her eyes bright with a mix of fear and fascination. Dr. Julian Marsh's tic had worsened, his face pale as he stared at the floor. Victor Grange, ever the charmer, lit yet another cigarette, but his usual grin was absent, replaced by a tense frown. "Mies Amos," Poirot said, his voice cutting through the silence. "A door does not slam without a hand to move it. Someone in this house is playing a dangerous game. I suggest we find that door now." He led the group toward the sound, which had come from the manor's west wing, a part of the house they hadn't yet explored. The corridor was narrow, its walls lined with faded tapestries depicting roses entwined with thorns, their colours muted by time. The air was musty, heavy with the scent of old wood and neglect. Poirot's flashlight swept the shadows, landing on a heavy oak door at the corridor's end. It was slightly ajar, a faint draught stirring the dust on the floor. He pushed it open, revealing a small, cluttered room that appeared to be an old archive or storage space. Shelves sagged under the weight of dusty ledgers, and a single window was boarded shut, letting in only slivers of moonlight. The room was a treasure trove of forgotten history. Poirot's keen eyes scanned the shelves, landing on a leather-bound book embossed with the crescent Thorn symbol. He pulled it down carefully, its pages brittle with age. Inside were records of the Vale family, dating back centuries, but one entry caught his attention, a mention of Lady Margaret Vale, the woman from the crypt's painting, dated 1875. It described her as the guardian of the secret, tasked with protecting the rose's truth at all costs. A later note, scrawled in a different hand, read, "The dagger betrays. Trust no one." Poirot's heart quickened. The legend was real, and it was tied to this house and its current occupants. He turned to the group, holding up the book. "This speaks of Lady Margaret and a secret she guarded. Madame Vale, what do you know of this?" Lady Eleanor's face tightened, but she shook her head. "Family stories, Monsieur Poirot, nothing more. My great-aunt Margaret was ... eccentric. She left journals, but they're nonsense." Her voice was too quick, too dismissive. Poirot's eyes narrowed. And yet, someone entered this room and slammed the door. Someone who knows more than they admit. He reached into his pocket, producing the brass key. This key, with its symbol, does not fit the crypt, but perhaps it fits something here. Poirot began searching the room, tapping shelves and walls for hidden compartments. The guests watched, their tension palpable. Clara, ever curious, pointed to a small wooden chest in the corner, its lock engraved with the crescent Thorn. "Symbol, try it there," she urged. Poirot inserted the key, and with a soft click, the chest opened. Inside was a bundle of letters, tied with a red ribbon, and a small velvet pouch containing a single rose petal, identical to those found earlier. The letters were addressed to Lady Eleanor's initials, but the handwriting matched the angular script of the note Poirot had found in the study. One letter read, "The secret must stay buried, or we all pay the price. Meet me at the crypt at midnight." It was unsigned, but the date was recent, 3 days ago. "Madame," Poirot said, turning to Lady Eleanor, "these letters bear your initials. Explain." Her face drained of colour. I received them, yes, but I don't know who sent them. They started arriving weeks ago, warning me to keep the secret safe." Her voice cracked, and Poirot sensed truth mixed with fear. Sir Reginald interrupted, his voice booming. "This is ridiculous. Anonymous letters, probably some prankster." But his eyes lingered on the chest, and Poirot noted a flicker of recognition. Dr. Marsh, meanwhile, was sweating, his hands shaking. "I told you," he muttered, "that symbol is dangerous. It's tied to a group of society that doesn't forgive." Poirot pounced. "What society, monsieur? Speak." Marsh shook his head, retreating into silence. Victor stepped forward, his charm replaced by a hard edge. "Let's not get carried away, Poirot. Old letters and petals don't prove anything." But Clara disagreed, her voice rising. "They proves someone's trying to scare us or worse. That figure in the fog, the scream, the key, it's all connected. Poirot nodded. Mademoiselle Wren is correct. The pieces are forming a picture, but it is not yet clear. We must know who entered this room. He examined the floor, noticing scuff marks near the chest, as if someone had knelt there recently. A faint trace of cigarette ash caught his eye. Victor's brand, perhaps. He filed it away, then turned to the window. The boards were loose, one slightly askew, revealing a crack wide enough for a slender figure to slip through. Another entry point, Poirot murmured. Someone is moving through this house like a phantom. He resolved to question the staff next, suspecting they might know more about the manor's secrets. As the group returned to the drawing room, Poirot kept the letters and petal, his mind racing. The society Marsh mentioned, the letters to Lady Eleanor. The figure in the foreground pointed to a conspiracy rooted in the Vale family's past. But who was pulling the strings? He decided to confront Victor privately about the ash, but before he could, a maid burst into the room, her face ashen. "Sir, Madame, there's something in the garden." A light moving near the crypt. The guests froze, and Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Mies Amis, it seems our phantom is active tonight. Let us investigate. That's where we pause, my friends. The key has opened a chest of secrets, but the lock to the truth remains elusive. Who sent those letters? And what is the light in the garden? Poirot's closing in, but the danger is growing. Join me in the next chapter as he chastens the light and uncovers a revelation that changes everything. Like, subscribe, and comment below with your theories who's behind the letters and what's in the crypt. See you in Chapter 7. The maid's frantic words hung in the air like a storm cloud, her wide eyes fixed on the drawing-room window where the fog pressed thick against the glass. A light, she said, was moving near the crypto, flickering beacon in the night that sent a chill through Blackthorn Manor. Hercule Poirot adjusted his coat, his mind sharp as a blade, sensing the mystery was reaching a turning point. The guests, Lady Eleanor Vale, Sir Reginald Holt, Clara Wren, Dr. Julian Marsh, and Victor Grange stood, frozen, their faces a mix of fear and suspicion. Welcome back, my friends, to our pulse-pounding tale of secrets at Blackthorn Manor. In this chapter, Poirot chases the mysterious light in the garden, hunting for answers about the rose, the dagger, and the forbidden secret. Who's out there, and what are they hiding? Let's venture into the fog with the great detective and find out. If you're gripped by this mystery, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's unravel the next clue together. Poirot led the group to the manor's rear door, his flashlight cutting through the murky night. The fog was denser now, wrapping the garden in a ghostly shroud that muffled every sound. "Stay together, mes amis," he instructed, his voice calm but firm. "We are not alone." Lady Eleanor hesitated, her hand on the doorframe. "Monsieur Poirot, this is reckless. The crypt is dangerous at night." Her protest sounded hollow, and Poirot's eyes narrowed. "Danger, madame, is already here. The light will lead us to the truth." The guests followed reluctantly, their footsteps crunching on the gravel path toward the crypt's hidden gate. The garden was a labyrinth of overgrown roses and tangled vines, their thorns glinting in the flashlight's beam. The air smelled of damp earth and something sharper, gunpowder perhaps. Poirot's senses sharpened. The crypt loomed ahead, its iron door barely visible through the mist. There, near the stone wall, a faint glow bobbed like a will-o'-the-wisp, then vanished. Quickly, Poirot urged, moving toward it. The group struggled to keep pace, their breaths visible in the cold. Sir Reginald muttered about damned fool's errands, but his hand stayed in his pocket, gripping something tightly. Clara, clutching her journal, whispered, "It's like a ghost story." Dr. Marsh's tick was relentless, his eyes darting to the shadows. Victor's cigarette glowed faintly, but his usual charm was gone, replaced by a tense WATCHFULNESS. At the crypt's entrance, Poirot stopped, his flashlight sweeping the ground. Fresh footprints marked the mudsmall, like the smudge in the guest room, but deeper, as if someone had been carrying something heavy. He knelt, noticing a faint glint in the dirt, a tiny silver locket, its clasp broken, engraved with the crescent and thorn symbol. He pocketed it discreetly, his mind racing. "Someone was here moments ago," he said, standing, "and they left in a hurry." He tried the crypt's door, but it was locked, and the brass key from the chest still didn't fit. Lady Eleanor, watching closely, said nothing, but her lips were a thin line. Poirot turned to the group. "Mies Amos, this locket is no coincidence. It bears the symbol of the rose and dagger. Who does it belong to?" Silence answered him, but Clara's eyes widened. "I saw a locket like that in an old portrait in the library," she said. "Belonged to Lady Margaret Vale. But how did it get here?" Poirot's little grey cells buzzed. The painting in the crypt, the journal entries, the locket all tied to Margaret Vale and her secret. But why was it in the garden now? He scanned the group, noting Victor's clenched jaw and Marsh's trembling hands. "Someone knows," he said softly, "and they will not hide for long." He led the group along the path where the light had vanished, toward a small gardener's shed half hidden by roses. The door was ajar, and inside Poirot found a lantern, still warm, its wick smouldering. On the floor lay a crumpled piece of paper, scrawled with the words, "The dagger points to the truth." Midnight. The handwriting matched the letters in the chest, angular and urgent. Poirot held it up, his voice sharp. "This was written tonight. Who was here, and what truth does the dagger point to?" Lady Eleanor's face drained of colour. "I don't know," she whispered, but her eyes flicked to Victor. Sir Reginald barked, "This is madness. Some vagrant, probably," but his bluster felt forced. Dr. Marsh mumbled, "It's the society. They're watching us." Victor laughed. "Too loudly, a society. You read too many books, Doctor." Poirot's gaze lingered on Victor. The cigarette ash in the archive room, the locket in the garden, both pointed to someone moving in secret. "Monsieur Grange," he said, "you smoke a distinctive brand. I found ash in the archive, and now this locket near your cigarette's glow. Care to explain?" Victor's grin faltered. "Coincidence, Poirot. I was with you when the maid saw the light." But his eyes darted to the shed's shadows, and Poirot sensed a lie. He decided to press further later, privately, back inside the manor. Poirot gathered the group in the library, where Clara's earlier discovery had hidden. He retrieved it from a shelf, its pages yellowed but intact. It was Lady Margaret's, dated 1875, and described a pact to protect a secret that could ruin the Vale name. One passage stood out. "The rose is our bond, the dagger our warning, the locket seals our oath, hidden where none will look." Poirot's mind raced. The locket was part of an oath tied to a secret society, just as Marsh had hinted. But who in this house was bound by that oath today? He confronted Lady Eleanor. "Madame, This journal suggests your family made a pact. Are you part of it? Her eyes flashed. My great-aunt was delusional, Monsieur Poirot. There's no society, no pact, just stories. But her voice shook, and Poirot knew she was hiding something. He turned to Marsh. You spoke of a society, monsieur. Tell me more. Marsh shrank back. I only read about it. They were called the Order of the Thorn, tied to the Vales. They guarded something ... dangerous. That's all I know. His fear was genuine, but Poirot sensed he knew more. As the clock neared midnight, Poirot felt the weight of the hour mentioned in the note. Mise Amos, he said, the note speaks of midnight. I propose we watch the crypt tonight. The truth is close. The guests protested, but Poirot was firm. As they prepared to return to the garden, a faint scratching sound came from the library's fireplace. Poirot spun, his flashlight revealing a loose brick in the hearth. He pried it free, uncovering a small compartment inside, a single rose petal, fresh and red, beside a folded note. It read, "The truth lies where the rose falls." Poirot's heart pounded. The phantom was still moving, leaving clues like breadcrumbs. Here we pause, my friends. The locket, the lantern, the journal, and now a hidden note prose, closing in on the secret. But the clock is ticking. What will happen at midnight, and who is the Order of the Thorn? Join me in the next chapter as Poirot stakes out the crypt and faces a danger that threatens them all. Like, subscribe, and comment below with your guesses who left the locket, and what's the truth behind the rose. See you in Chapter 8. The clock in Blackthorn Manor's library struck 11, its chimes reverberating like a heartbeat in the tense silence. Hercule Poirot stood by the fireplace, the freshly discovered note in his hand. The truth lies where the rose falls. Its words echoing alongside the rose petal found in the hidden compartment. The air was thick with anticipation, the guests' faces pale under the flickering lamplight. Lady Eleanor Vale clutched her brooch. Sir Reginald Holt's hand remained in his pocket. Clara Wren's journal trembled in her grip. Dr. Julian Marsh's tic betrayed his nerves, and Victor Grange's cigarette smoke curled like a question mark. Welcome back, my friends, to our heart-pounding mystery at Blackthorn Manor. In this chapter, Poirot stakes out the crypt at midnight, chasing the truth behind the rose, the dagger, and the shadowy Order of the Thorn. What will the darkness reveal? Let's follow the great detective into the fog and find out. If you're riveted by this tale, smash that like button, subscribe, and let's uncover the next clue together. Poirot gathered the group, his voice steady but urgent. Mise Amos. The note speaks of midnight, and the crypt calls us. We will watch and wait, for the phantom of this house will not hide forever. Lady Eleanor protested, her voice sharp. This is madness, Monsieur Poirot. The crypt is no place for us at this hour. But her eyes darted to the window, where the fog pressed thickly, and Poirot sensed her fear was not of the dark, but of what it might reveal. Sir Reginald grumbled, "I'll not freeze in some damp tomb for a ghost hunt." Yet he followed, his hand still in his pocket, as if clutching a talisman. Clara, ever eager, whispered, "This is it the moment the legend comes alive." Dr. Marsh mumbled incoherently, his tic relentless, while Victor's grin was tight, his eyes scanning the group. They stepped into the garden, the fog so dense it seemed to swallow their flashlight beams. The path to the crypt was slick with dew, the roses' thorns glinting like tiny daggers. Poirot led the way, his senses alert, the brass key and locket heavy in his pocket. The note's words, "The truth lies where the rose falls," suggested. A literal or symbolic act, and he suspected the crypt held the answer. At the iron door, he paused, checking the lock again. The key from the chest still didn't fit, but the crescent and thorn symbol on the door gleamed in the moonlight. A silent challenge. "We wait here," Poirot said, positioning the group. "Behind a stone wall, out of sight. No sound, no movement. The phantom will come." The minutes crawled by, the cold seeping into their bones. Poirot's eyes never left the crypt, his mind piecing together the clues, the scream, the petals, the locket, the letters, the journal, and Marsh's mention of the Order of the Thorn. Was this a secret society still active, guarding a truth tied to the Vale family? The locket, once Lady Margaret's, suggested a legacy of oaths and betrayal. As midnight approached, a faint glow appeared in the fog, moving toward the crypt. Poirot tensed, signaling the group to stay low. The light flickered, then stopped. At the crypt's door, a figure, cloaked in black, emerged from the mist, their face hidden. They knelt, placing something on the ground, a single red rose. Poirot sprang forward, his flashlight illuminating the figure. "Halt," he commanded, but the figure bolted, vanishing into the fog. He gave chase, but the mist was too thick, the figure too swift. Returning to the crypt, he found the rose, its petals fresh, beside a small folded note. It read, "The dagger cuts deepest at dawn." The handwriting matched the previous notes, angular and urgent. Poirot's heart raced. Dawn was hours away, but the message was clear. Time was running out. He turned to the group, who had emerged from their hiding spot, their faces pale. "Someone plays a deadly game," he said. "This rose was placed deliberately, and the note warns of danger. Who among you knows the truth?" Lady Eleanor's voice was a whisper. "I told you, Monsieur Poirot, these are old family stories." "I know nothing of this." But her hands shook, and Poirot saw fear in her eyes. Sir Reginald barked, "This is a prank, nothing more. Some local stirring trouble." Clara, clutching her journal, disagreed. "It's the Order of the Thorn, I'm sure of it. The journal mentioned a ritual arose, laid at midnight, to renew the oath." Dr. Marsh's voice was barely audible. "They'll kill to keep the secret." "I warned you," Victor laughed, but it was hollow. "Kill over a flower. Let's not be dramatic." Yet his eyes lingered on the rose, and Poirot noted a flicker of unease. He examined the crypt's door. Again, noticing a faint scratch near the lock, fresh and deliberate. "Someone tried to force it," he murmured, "or make it appear so." He knelt by the rose, finding a tiny thread caught on a thornblack, like the cloaked figure's garb. It matched the fabric of a scarf Victor had worn earlier, but kept this to himself. Instead, he addressed the group. "Mies Amos, the Order of the Thorn is no myth. Someone here, or someone watching, is bound to it. The locket, the notes, the rosasaur, point to a secret they will kill to protect. I must know your connections to this house." Clara spoke first, her voice trembling with excitement. "I was invited to research the legend, but I found a letter. In the library, hidden in a book. It said the order was real, formed to hide a scandal. I thought it was just inspiration for my novel." Sir Reginald scoffed. "I knew the Vales in my army days. Eleanor's father was a good man, but he had debts, nothing sinister." Marsh's tic worsened. "I treated Eleanor's mother years ago. She mentioned the order once, said it was dangerous. That's all." Victor shrugged. "I'm just here for business, Poirot. Eleanor needed investment advice. I don't know any secret societies." Lady Eleanor's eyes flashed. "Enough. My family's past is private. Stop this, Monsieur Poirot. But Poirot was relentless. He led the group back to the manor, his mind racing. In the library, he reopened Lady Margaret's journal, finding a new passage. The locket hides the key to the vault where the truth sleeps. The locket in his pocket felt heavier. He examined it closely, noticing a tiny seam along its edge. With a gentle twist, it opened, revealing a smaller key inside, etched with the crescent Thorn symbol. Mon Dieu, Poirot whispered. Another key for another lock. He resolved to search the manor for a vault, suspecting it held the forbidden secret. As the group dispersed to their rooms, Poirot lingered, hearing a faint creak from the hallway. He followed it, finding a narrow staircase leading to the attic. At the top, a locked door bore the crescent Thorn symbol. He tried the tiny key from the locket. It fit perfectly. Before he could turn it, a shadow moved behind him, and a cold voice whispered, "You're too close, Poirot." He spun, but no one was there. The manor was alive with danger. Here we pause, my friends. The midnight rose, the cloaked figure, and a new keep rose, unraveling the order of the Thorn. But someone's watching his every move. What lies behind the attic door, and who spoke in the shadows? Join me in the next chapter as Poirot opens the lock and faces a truth that could destroy them all. Like, subscribe, and comment below with your theories. Who's the phantom and what's in the vault? See you in Chapter 9. The whisper in the attic. You're too close. Poirot hung in the air like a blade poised to strike, sending a chill down even Hercule Poirot's spine. He stood before the locked door, its crescent and thorn symbol glinting in the dim glow of his flashlight. The tiny key from the locket clutched tightly in his gloved hand. The manor seemed to hold its breath, its walls creaking as if warning him to turn back. Welcome back, my friends, to the heart-pounding climax of our mystery at Blackthorn Manor. In this chapter, Poirot unlocks the attic door, chasing the truth. Behind the rose, the dagger, and the order of the Thorn. Who spoke in the shadows, and what secret lies within the vault? The stakes are higher than ever, so grab a seat, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's step into the darkness with the world's greatest detective. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Poirot's heart pounded as he inserted the tiny key into the lock. It turned with a soft click, the sound echoing in the silent attic. He pushed the door open, revealing a cramped, dusty room lit only by slivers of moonlight seeping through a cracked skylight. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and old secrets. Shelves lined the walls, sagging under the weight of ancient books and sealed boxes, but at the room's center stood a small iron safe, its door engraved with the crescent Thorn symbol. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmured, the vault. This was no ordinary safe, it was the heart of the mystery, the place where the forbidden secret slept. He approached cautiously, his flashlight sweeping the room for signs of the phantom who had whispered his warning. The floor was littered with dust, but fresh footprints, small like those in the garden, led to the safe and back to the door. Someone had been here recently, and Poirot's little grey cells buzzed with suspicion. He knelt by the safe, noticing a faint scratch on its lock, similar to the one on the crypt's door. The tiny key didn't fit, but a second lock, hidden beneath a sliding panel, bore the crescent and thorn symbol. He tried the key again, and it clicked. The safe's door creaked open, revealing a velvet-lined interior. Inside lay a single item, a leather-bound ledger, its cover embossed with a rose and dagger. Poirot opened the ledger, his hands steady despite the tension. The pages were filled with names, dates, and cryptic entries, all in the same angular handwriting as the notes he'd found. It was a record of the Order of the Thorn, dating back to 1875, the year of Lady Margaret Vale's pact. The entries detailed a secret society formed to protect a truth that could ruin the Vale family and beyond. One passage stood out. The rose binds us, the dagger warns us. The scandal of 1874 must never be known. The locket seals are oath, and the vault guards the proof. A later entry, dated just weeks ago, read E.V. falters. The secret is threatened. The dagger must act. Poirot's pulse quickened. The initials E. Villady, Eleanor, suggested a betrayal within the order. He heard a creak behind him and spun, flashlight raised. The attic was empty, but the door was now slightly ajar, as if someone had peeked in. "Show yourself," he called, but only silence answered. He tucked the ledger under his arm and hurried downstairs to confront the guests, who were gathered in the drawing room, their faces pale under the chandelier's flickering light. Lady Eleanor stood by the fire, her eyes wide. Sir Reginald gripped a brandy glass, his knuckles white. Clara scribbled in her journal, her pen frantic. Dr. Marsh's tick was relentless, his gaze fixed on the floor. Victor lit another cigarette, his grin forced. "Mies Amos," Poirot said, holding up the ledger. "This is the record of the Order of the Thorn. It speaks of a scandal, a pact, and a threat. One of you is part of this. Speak now." Lady Eleanor's voice was sharp. "That's impossible, Monsieur Poirot. My family's history is private, not some sinister plot." But her hands trembled, and Poirot saw fear in her eyes. Sir Reginald barked. "This is nonsense. I knew Eleanor's father, good man, bad debts, nothing more." Clara's eyes gleamed. "The scandal of 1874, I read about it in the library. A Vale ancestor was accused of treason, but it was hushed up. Could that be the secret?" Dr. Marsh whispered, "The Order doesn't forgive. They'll kill to keep it hidden." Victor laughed, but it was strained. "Kill over old gossip. You're all mad." Yet his eyes lingered on the ledger, and Poirot noted a flicker of recognition. He pressed further, holding up the note from the garden. "The dagger cuts deepest at dawn. This was written tonight," he said. "Dawn is near, and someone plans to act." Who? Silence fell, broken only by the ticking clock. Then Clara gasped, pointing to the window. A faint shadow moved outside, near the crypt. "It's them again," she cried. Poirot's heart raced. He led the group to the garden, flashlight in hand, the ledger tucked safely in his coat. The fog was thinner now, the crypt's iron door visible. There, on the ground, lay another rose petal, fresh and red, beside a small dagger knot, the one from the study, but a simpler blade. Its handle plain. Poirot knelt, examining the dagger. Its blade was clean, but a tiny notch in the handle matched the scratches on the crypt and safe. "This was used to force locks," he said, standing. "Someone is searching for the same truth I seek." He turned to Victor. "Monsieur, your cigarette ash was in the archive, your scarf's thread in the garden. Were you in the attic?" Victor's grin vanished. "You're grasping, Poirot." "I was with the group," but his voice was tight, and Poirot sensed a lie. He turned to Marsh. "You spoke of the Order's danger. Are you one of them?" Marsh's tick worsened. "No, I only know what I read. They're ruthless." Lady Eleanor stepped forward, her voice breaking. "Enough. I invited you to. Stop this, Poirot. Not to tear my family apart. Before Poirot could respond, a low rumble came from the crypt, like stone grinding against stone. The group froze, and Poirot rushed to the door, trying the brass key from the chest. It still didn't fit, but the tiny key from the locket turned in a hidden lock beside the main one. The door groaned open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. "Mon Dieu," Poirot whispered, "the vault is below." He turned to the group. "Stay here or follow, but the truth waits for no one." With that, he descended, flashlight in hand, the ledger clutched tightly. "Here we pause, my friends, on the edge of the abyss. The ledger reveals a scandal. The Order of the Thorn is real, and the crypt's secret vault beckons. Who's behind? The roses and daggers. And what will Poirot find below? We're one chapter from the end, and the truth is within reach, but so is danger. Join me in the final chapter as Poirot confronts the forbidden secret and unmasks the phantom. Like, subscribe, and comment below with your guesses. Who's in the Order and what's in the vault? Don't miss Chapter 10. The crypt's hidden staircase descended into a darkness so thick it seemed to swallow Hercule Poirot's flashlight beam, each step echoing with the weight of Blackthorn Manor's centuries-old secrets. The leather-bound ledger of the Order of the Thorn was clutched tightly under his arm, its pages whispering of a scandal that could ruin the Vale family. The tiny key from the locket had unlocked this passage, and now, with dawn approaching, Poirot sensed the forbidden secret was within reach. The guest's lady, Eleanor Vale, Sir Reginald Holt, Clara Wren, Dr. Julian Marsh, and Victor Grange hovered at the crypt's entrance above, their faces pale with dread. Welcome back, my friends, to the thrilling finale of our mystery at Blackthorn Manor. In this final chapter, Poirot confronts the truth in the secret vault, unmasks the phantom, and reveals the heart of the Rose and Dagger's forbidden secret. The clues have led us here. Let's dive into the darkness and uncover the truth with the world's greatest detective. Hit that like button, subscribe, and comment your final guesses below. This is one ending you won't forget. Polished shoes clicked on the stone steps as he descended, the air growing colder and heavier with the scent of earth and decay. The staircase ended in a small chamber, its walls carved with roses and thorns, illuminated by his flashlight. At its center stood a stone pedestal, and on it a locked iron box engraved with the crescent thorn symbol. Poirot's heart raced. "The vault of truth," he murmured. He tried the tiny key from the locket, but it didn't fit. Then, recalling the brass key from the chest, he tried it instead. With a soft click, the box opened, revealing a single document, yellowed with age, and a small velvet pouch. Inside the pouch was a ruby ring, its band etched with a rose and dagger. The document was a confession, signed by Lady Margaret Vale in 1874, detailing a scandal that shook Poirot's little grey cells. The confession read, "I, Margaret Vale, betrayed my family by aiding a traitor who sold secrets to a foreign power. To protect our name, I formed the Order of the Thorn, swearing to hide the truth. The ring seals our oath, the rose our bond, the dagger our warning. The traitors' proof lies buried here, never to see light." Attached was a list of names members of the Order, including Margaret's brother, Edward Vale, and others whose descendants might be in the manor now. Poirot's mind raced. The scandal was treason, and the Order had killed to keep it hidden. But who was continuing their work today? A faint scuffle from the stairs snapped him back to the present. He spun, flashlight raised, catching a glimpse of a cloaked figure retreating upward. "Stop," he called, racing after them. He emerged in the crypt, where the guests stood frozen, their eyes wide. The cloaked figure was gone, but a fresh rose petal lay at the entrance, its crimson stark against the stone. "Mise, Amos, Poirot," said, his voice commanding, "the truth is revealed. The Order of the Thorn guards a scandal of treason, and one of you is its keeper." He held up the ring and confession, watching their reactions. Lady Eleanor's face drained of colour. Sir Reginald's hand tightened in his pocket. Clara gasped, Marsh's tic worsened, and Victor's cigarette fell to the ground. Poirot gathered them in the Manor's drawing room, the dawn light filtering through the fog. "Let us end this, Mise, Amos," he said, pacing before the fireplace. The scream, the petals, the notes all were meant to warn or mislead. The Order of the Thorn is real, and its members are among us. He turned to Lady Eleanor. "Madame, your initials EV appear on the notes. You knew of the order, did you not?" She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I received the notes, yes, but I didn't write them. My family's shame. I wanted to protect it." Poirot nodded, believing her fear but not her innocence. He faced Sir Reginald. "Monsieur, you knew Eleanor's father, a man with debts. Were you part of the order, protecting his secrets?" The Colonel's face reddened. "Preposterous. I was a friend, nothing more." But his hand in his pocket betrayed him, and Poirot's eyes narrowed. "To Clara," he said, "Mademoiselle, your curiosity uncovered the journal, but was it chance? Or were you seeking the order's truth?" Clara flushed. "I'm just a writer. I didn't know it was real." Her passion seemed genuine, but wasn't convinced. Dr. Marsh was next. "You spoke of the order's danger, monsieur. Were you warning us, or protecting yourself?" Marsh stammered, I only read about it, I swear." His fear was real, but Poirot sensed evasion. Finally, he turned to Victor. "Monsieur Grange, your ash was in the archive, your scarf's thread in the garden, your cigarette near the locket. You are the phantom, are you not?" Victor's grin vanished. "You're clever, Poirot, but you've got nothing." Poirot smiled thinly. "Au contraire. The dagger in the garden, notched 2 force locks, matches your pocket knife's blade." He produced the knife, taken discreetly from Victor's coat during the crypt stakeout. The room gasped. Victor lunged, but Sir Reginald restrained him, revealing a small pistol from his pocket. "Enough, Grange," he barked. Poirot revealed the truth. Victor Grange is a descendant of Edward Vale, a member of the Order. He came to Blackthorn to find the confession, intending to sell it to ruin the Vale name or extort Lady Eleanor. The notes, the petals, the scream all were his attempts to scare the others into revealing the vault. But he underestimated Hercule Poirot. Victor snarled, "You can't prove it." But Poirot held up the ledger, pointing to Edward Vale's name and a recent entry. "VG seeks the truth. Stop him." The handwriting matched Victor's business card, found in his room. Lady Eleanor confessed, her voice breaking. "I suspected Victor, but I couldn't act alone. My mother was in the Order, and I inherited her oath. I invited you, Poirot, to stop him." Dr. Marsh admitted to knowing the Order's history from treating Eleanor's mother, but swore he wasn't a member. Clara was cleared, her curiosity genuine. Sir Reginald, a loyal friend, had carried the pistol to protect Eleanor, not the Order. Victor, cornered, admitted to the notes and petals, but denied the scream. "That wasn't me," he insisted. Poirot nodded, suspecting a final twist, but with the confession secured, the case was solved. As the police arrived to take Victor away, Poirot handed the ring to Lady Eleanor. "Madame, the secret is safe, but the order must end. Let the past rest." She nodded, tears falling. The rose and dagger were returned to the study, their mystery resolved. And so, my friends, the case of Blackthorn Manor closes. Poirot's little grey cells triumphed, unmasking the phantom and the forbidden secret. But was the scream truly Victor's doing, or does another shadow linger? That's for you to ponder. Thank you for joining this thrilling ride. Like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts. Did you guess the culprit? Share your favorite moment, and let's keep the mystery alive. Until next time, au revoir.